you want um, your name. I'm doing it just like my first book. So I'm interviewing people, changing names and doing all those things. So you let me know if you want a different name. Definitely though, I want to ask about your background and things like that.
And I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, mostly everybody's been like, I'm fine. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background.
All righty. So I'm Reverend Sandy Rogers, born Lysandra Armstead. And there were a lot of people in elementary school that could not pronounce Lysandra, and they are the ones that coined the nickname Sandy. It was actually Santee, Santy. And so I've been with that name for quite a while. In 1961, at the age of 11, well, actually I was 10 because I had not reached my 11th birthday, my brother and I having discussions, understanding we come from Watts, and so for us to even be having these discussion or this topic as a discussion was quite unusual because it was not it was not a part of what people would be talking about in Watts, the ghetto. And we decided that there was just something in the air, in our consciousness that wasn't benefiting us, and that we had the power to do something about. So we began having conversations with our friends and things like that. And there must have been at least 80 young people that came together and agreed with us. And thus the birth of the Student Committee for Improvement in Watts, nicknamed SCIFU, which is the acronym. And I tell you, we were so powerful in Watts, our activities, our shifting mindsets, our taking pride in where we lived, and the people around us, our neighbors and friends and family and things like that. And we had a sponsor who was very active in the work that we were doing and made sure that she presented us with additional opportunities to network with other cultures. And so we did exchanges with predominantly rich white neighborhoods and things like that. The work that we were doing, we helped elders fix up their homes, yard work, we cleaned streets, we petitioned business owners on 103rd, which was the main thoroughfare for Watts. And to those that were dilapidated and boarded up, we demanded that they clean their property up and bring it up to standards or sell it or something. But we would no longer allow those dilapidated buildings to be present on the main street within our community. We went to City Hall. It was under Tom Bradley's administration, and demanded that they cite those businesses and have them to clean up their establishments, right? And we got laughed out of there. Like, you kids, go on, do something else with your time and leave us alone. So they said, well, if you come back with, I believe it was 2,000. It may have been more than that. If you come back with 2,000 signatures, perhaps we'll take a look at it. But we came back with like 10,000 signatures, and they were just floored. They were like, oh my God, you guys are serious. And so from that point forward, we were a group to be reckoned with, to be taken serious, and knew that we were about business. And I personally and several of the other members of the group feel that because our work was so positive in creating change within the community of Watts, which was not called community, it was called ghetto, right? That the Watts riot erupted.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It was so powerful. It was dynamic,
Wow.
and like at the end of that project with cleaning people's homes and things, we had a celebration in the streets over by the Watts Towers, and we called it Dancing in the Streets. That was Martha and the Vandellas. Music was out at the time, and just like everybody was into that whole community empowerment, personal empowerment and development. And so that's the beginning of my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how old were you again?
11, 10, going into 11. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did that lead to the Watts uprising, in your opinion?
A lot of the uprisings that happen in our community are not started by us.
Right.
It started by people from the outside wanting to
Infiltrate,
yes.
ignite.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We
see.
wouldn't have done that to our own community. We had just come through this period of community pride and
Yeah,
empowerment and upliftment, right? So why
I
would we
see.
then turn around and try to burn the thing down? It just, it didn't make sense. So
I see. I see. So that was the beginning
yes.
of your activism.
Yes, ma'am.
So when it comes to high demand religions, I want to give you a couple of definitions that I've come across.
Okay.
So it says a high demand, high control religion is a faith community that requires obedience, discourages its members from questioning its rules, principles, and practices, expecting subservience and loyalty, discouraging trusting relationships outside the group. So is this something you've seen? Have you basically been like in one religious sect, or did you because I've gone through several and have been in contact with a few high demand religions myself. So is that something that you've seen?
I have. And
Mhm.
I too have participated and served in leadership positions in several denominations.
Mhm.
So Science of Mind, Disciples of Christ, Baptist, New Thought, AME, Muslim, Seventh-day Adventist, Catholic. Some were just enough. And what's the other one? Hold on. God dog it. Because it's the one that's most interesting to me.
Okay.
But I'll think of it. We can
Okay.
keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. This question is very interesting because it's mostly appropriate in all the religions. That if you don't believe what we believe, then you're going to burn and go to hell, and I think that's so inappropriate by what the teachings are from the pulpit, right?
Yeah.
Like we're teaching love and acceptance, and we're all this one big family. But at the same time, if a person comes with an independent thought or consciousness, you need to take classes. You need to see what we believe in. And I'm like, wow, that just kind of say that I'm thinking incorrectly and that my thoughts are not important or they don't fit into the scheme of things. So I find that very disheartening, and it does serve as a put down to people and a disempowerment of a person's independent thought. So Kojic, that's the other, yeah. So with them, was when I was working within the HIV and AIDS community.
Okay.
I had developed this program and, getting churches to buy into conducting these awareness groups at the different churches, right? And so they were interested and doing the program. And the young man that I was working with asked me would I come on staff with them, would I join the church? And I'm like, no. I say, y'all too restrictive. A person can't think, they can't be themselves, they got to think just like you. And so, no, let me just stay where I am. I appreciate the opportunity. I say, because a lot of the things that you guys think are appropriate are not to me. And he's like, you know what? I think the same thing.
People who don't know about Kojic, because Kojic was something that I didn't know about until I think I was living in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You want to tell people what the acronym stands for and what some of their beliefs are? What is it?
Church of, I'll have to look it up real quick.
God in something, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't Church of
God in Christ.
Mm-hmm. So it says it's a Protestant Christian denomination, founded in 1897 as a holiness church. And then they came back around in 1907 as a Pentecostal church. And I think that may be that other part of it that causes it to be so staunch in their beliefs,
Kojic, I think you have to wear skirts, right? It's one of those, you can't cut your hair.
It probably is. I that was one I did not study with. I just had developed a program and was but there was I did go to a holiness church.
Okay.
I have all kind of experiences, right?
I want to hear whatever you want to share.
And this young lady invited me to go, and I was like, sure, I'm always curious about what's going on. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm at the time, I'm heavily involved in Hillside, which is a New Thought church. And the request from the person in charge, and I'm not sure if it's pastor, reverend, what his title was for us to be in prayer. So I go into that Zen stage, and I'm just like, and he comes and taps me on the shoulder, like, you need to get up. I'm like, get up for what? Because when we pray, we up and we doing this and that, and playing the music and clapping our hands. I'm like, but this is my style of praying. No, you can't sit down. And the friend that I came with, she was just like, get up, get up. And I'm like, I wish you would have told me this before I came in here, because I wouldn't have come, I thought that was so disrespectful.
Right. Especially coming from Hillside. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, from me, he had no respect as to how I worshiped. And I think that should be such an important inclusion as people attend and visit with these different churches, that people are not so set in their ways about what you think and like you say, how you dress and all of that. If you're welcoming of everyone, then you're welcoming. I remember in LA, where I was actively involved with the First AME church. Cecil Murray was the pastor at that time. That man, I loved him more than anything. He was the first active pastor that I had worked with that believed in making sure the community was served. So once a month, the experts, be it attorneys, lawyers, whatever their expertise was, would provide free services once a month for an hour after church. He then got a group of people, and we were out in the community on down in the homeless section in Skid Row, feeding people. He established apartments within a mile radius. It actually was the next street over from where the church was located, to house people. And he built a credit union, and the children had scholarships and mentors that helped them through their scholastics. And it was just, he was just always looking for something else to elevate the community.
Mm.
And one of the lessons he would teach every couple of years, around Christmas time, he would have someone come that was not a member, dressed in raggedy clothes, and they may have had an offensive body odor, and he would sit them in the congregation. And he built his sermon around those that would, turn their nose up at this person and not welcome them and not speak to them. So it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And that was the only, there was another church, but that church, it was huge though. I mean, this was a mega church in LA, but he understood his role was in serving people and helping those up under him, his congregation, to respect and honor anyone that walked through that door.
And were you always a spiritual child? Obviously, you were always an activist, but were you always touched and led by spirit?
I don't know is how I'm going to answer that. We went to this one church in LA, and the pastor was doing some illegal things with children. And my mom pulled us out of the church, and we never went back. So it wasn't until I guess actually after I got out of high school that, I started going back into the churches and really getting actively involved.
And so oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know that I've had this intuitive nature about me for as far back as I can remember. Okay. Now, if we call intuitiveness spiritual, then yes.
Okay, got it. And so you talked about a natural curiosity, but what else attracted you to religion that might have been highly restrictive? Like what brought you to that group?
To any particular group or?
Yeah, so when you think about your experiences, were there some that were more demanding than others?
Perhaps I was looking for an explanation to the injustices, the hatred, the unrest, the killings that were happening, and the drugs that were in our community. Why were we so singled out? Why was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. killed, assassinated? Why were those that wanted to bring peace into the world were being killed, and their lives cut short? Was it because they were bringing something positive? So I want to see what the message was, So let me find out what's going on. And that's why the different experiences with the different religions. So perhaps, I can bind all of that into one capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think when you think about recruitment, right, into these organizations, do you think that, so you talked about why you came into it. And at this point, I mean, I don't even know how many people you've touched, like in churches and things like that. But what do you think the recruitment is like for other people? How do other people become involved from what you've seen?
I think it starts in childhood because their parents were raised from their grandparents and great-grandparents and further back on up the line that we had to go to church. That was a duty. I remember my grandmother saying, and I think that's why my mom may have left, but my grandmother would say, I work 5 days a week. I do my house chores on Saturday, and on Sunday, I'm going to church. That's my obligation. She never missed. She never missed. She would get dressed up, you know, in her Sunday go to meeting clothes, you know, and just a beautiful, beautiful person, had a beautiful spirit about her, was always of service to the community in which she lived, but she didn't miss church.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you have that and it's passed down generationally, then you just go without a consciousness, without an understanding. You go out of obligation because that's what everybody else did. I'm reading a book right now from an author, and she tells about these wounds that she experienced in all these different churches that she's been a part of. And my thing is like, so why do you keep going? You know, why are you keep setting yourself up for the pain and the wounds? It's because she was raised, obviously, with that is part of what you've got to do. You have no choice. So you keep looking for one that's, I'm gonna call it tainted. You keep looking for one that's untainted.
Right.
One that represents the true nature of God.
Right. Right. And so one of the things, even in my first book that I talked about, was the role of religion in domestic violence situations. And I was thinking about it more of what you were talking about, the obligation and things like that. But now with this project, I'm actually looking at different tactics and how some of the tactics are similar to abusive relationships. What are some of the tactics that you've seen that people actually use to like keep people in control? You already talked about like telling you how to, like, you got to stand, telling you how to pray. What are some other tactics you think that people have used or that were used on you?
Yeah, great question. I had a short fuse, and I always have. So some of those tactics didn't work, but that's okay. So we have, again, starting with that obligation.
Yeah.
And then one of the first questions when you're talking to someone new is, what church do you go to? What branch do you affiliate with? And that creates separation depending on who you're talking to, right? Because if you're not Muslim per se, then you can't participate in the various beliefs that they have. I remember I met this brother and I thought he was really a nice guy, right? And so we go out to coffee on our first date, and I'm asking him different questions, you know, like, what are your beliefs in this and that? He's like, well, I gotta ask the minister. So now I ask him another, and he'll say, well, I gotta ask the minister. And I was like, well, don't you have any personal thoughts on this particular subject? It was something simple, you know, just really, really simple. And he got angry with me because I was questioning. That's what he said. I was questioning his belief. I'm like, no, I'm questioning you. It has nothing to do with your belief, you know. But some people are inseparable from their religious beliefs than they are from their own personal. So it is about being a part, like these mega churches, you know. You gotta belong, because when you do, then you're a part of the in crowd, is what we used to call it. So like, you're part of the influencing community if you belong to these different churches, right, or these different denominations. And I see a lot of that going on all the time, where I'm not going to call any names, but I belong to this church and we're doing all of this stuff. And well, yeah, my pastor, he's big on economic development and about being successful financially, economic freedom, and all of like that. And so when they use those type of words in that type of an approach, someone that doesn't have, right, is going to go to that church hoping that they're going to learn these tools, these means, by increasing their financial life or their financial status. And they go and they stay because they want this prosperity treatment, that whoever got them into church or whatever they heard on the radio or something, that they will go and be able to partake of that knowledge and apply it to their life. So the churches prey on what they know people truly, truly want. And I believe that comes from their teachings in theology, the theological institutions. I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe somewhere in that whole cycle, there is something taught about the societal brain, and where people, where people are hurting the most, and apply to that, like gear your sermons toward that. That's my thinking.
I love that. And today, and you're making me think about, today, what they call it is pain points. When they're trying to sell certain things, or like find people's pain points. So in this book I'm reading about cults, it talks about part of, and I want to go back to the in crowd as well. But this person was a leader, wound up becoming a leader in the Moonies. And he talks about in his recruitment, they would teach you that to break personalities down into 4 points: doers, thinkers, feelers, and believers. And based on what a person is assessed, that's how you would go to them. So with doers, you would stress, like you're saying, my church feeds the hungry, they do this, they do that. If they're believers, then you tap into their spiritual beliefs. But he said believers were wide open, he called them. So they recruited themselves, because they might just be like, I was asking for help this morning about such and such, and now I'm talking to you. And so then they'd be like, boom, we got them. And then thinkers, they would bring in different academics and things like that. And that's what they would stress. Oh, we had, like, I don't know, Noam Chomsky speaking last week at our church or something like that, right? And then for feelers, they would stress that they were a family and about the well-being and things like that. So have you ever seen people do that? So you talked about focusing on sort of the pain points, but have you seen people pulled in because of their different personality traits and put into different positions?
Actually, I have. And it was, I don't know if you want the denomination, but it was with the Disciples of Christ. And it was about their professional standing. And as to how, they were recruited into the larger mix of people. And I think it was with the expectation that they had this large following of people that they could bring in. Because this was this was years and years pre social media, so it was all word of mouth, right? But yeah, I have seen that in full effect.
And you talked about being in the in crowd. And so since you were in leadership, what did that feel like being a leader in a religious group?
So I've had 2 terms.
Okay.
And the first was in that church, the Disciples of Christ, that I was just speaking of.
Okay.
And I want to say perhaps back in the 80s.
Okay.
And it was disheartening to go, because this was like at my infancy, and back in finding a way. And my sister and I, we were looking, like really searching for a place where we could go to get that nourishment, that spiritual upliftment. And being in a leadership position, because I was elevated to, I don't know, I think it was the president of the board or something like that. And it was all about money. Yeah, it was all about bringing in the money. And I believe that was why their focus was on the more business like minded, successful business people, so that they should be more financially able to really pour money into the church. And I was saddened. My heart ached because it wasn't about what I thought the church main focus should be, and that would be to help people along their path. But when you're serving and you're more concerned with how much money can be brought in, I think they were missing the point. So I resigned and left that particular church.
Yeah. How do you think involvement in these type of groups impacts Black women?
I believe that Black women, because of our conditioning through the years and the generations, have come to accept that the church is a place where we're going to find our connection to who we are. That the church is going to be our heart. And that we do everything that we're told to do in hopes that once we leave this physical world, we'll get to this diamond in the sky, this heaven. When you go into a church, almost any church, there's going to be a higher percentage of women, particularly in the Black churches. I'm not sure about the other races and cultures, but in the Black neighborhoods, it's going to be 90 to 95% women. And there's a lot of abuse that goes on, because I'm not sure those 4 categories that you gave, I'm not sure where this population would fit, but I know, just like I was telling you about the author, there are women that insist they got to go to church every Sunday.
Right, because we have thinkers, feelers, doers, but believers.
Maybe.
But there's something about but there's a difference between believing and obligation. So we need another category.
Yeah, because I think
when it comes to
see it as an obligation. Yeah. And and that's why there's so much abuse. You're talking about domestic violence relationships, but there's abuse going on right there in the church, right there in the church, and women. So within the work that I'm doing with my book, The A's Have It, I have a clubhouse group, and we meet Monday through Friday for 90 minutes. And that keeps coming up, or has come up several times, where young people have been abused in these church settings, right? But yet they still going, and I'll be like, wow. We've not been given permission that it's okay not to attend.
Abused by the people in charge.
Yes. Primarily, yes.
Keep going.
The head people of the church, yes. The pastors, the reverends, the ministers. So I remember when I left Hillside, and I went to Dr. Barber because I was serving in all these multitude of
I
positions
remember.
at the
Yeah.
church, right?
Yeah.
And I gave her my letter of resignation. And she looked at me and she says, daughter, you've graduated. You know, it was so heartfelt. And she was into my heart. And I didn't quite understand it right then. You know, it's like things that you hear when you're coming up that your parents tell you, and you'd be like, I don't know what that is. And you realize and you understand it more and more as you mature, right?
Yeah.
So I got what Dr. Barber said. And it's one of my beliefs. We're not required to keep going to church Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. We get to a place where we know our nature, our God nature. And it's at that point that we can go and help others versus going back week after week after week after week for these sermons. And most of them are repeated from the same scripture.
Wow.
Year in and year out.
Wow.
I can pick up my Bible right now and show you, that I got these same scriptures throughout. Different sermons, different churches, different people delivering the message, but there's a lot that are not highlighted. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I think that's part of what's taught in the theology schools as well.
That they give you the specific, because they know people are want more money, they want more love, they feel separated from themselves and all these things. So how long were you at Hillside before you resigned?
Oh, probably about 15 years, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
And I have spent at least 5 or so in leadership or management. But one of the things, even before I got so deeply involved in the leadership, was I would ask the question, people come here and we have these wide variety of just phenomenal speakers and teachers. But there are people that's been sitting up here for 30 and 35 years and their life hasn't changed. Why is that? When we apply the lessons, perhaps we can be graduated. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we reach that point of graduation. I had never heard that term used before in my life.
I know my time there was phenomenal, and I definitely applied what I had the capacity to apply at that time. And then when it was time for me to do something else, I did something else. But what do you think it is? Why were some people there 35 years in their life? Do you think it was the obligation? What do you think? Do you think the messages needed to be changed? What do you think?
I think that the core issue is not knowing your true self-worth, not loving you at a soul and spiritual level. And one of the reasons, but this was not the case with Hillside, but most of the religions teach you that, God is up there somewhere outside of you. So you never internalize your value, right? Just never, ever.
Yeah.
Even though that was not taught at that was not the case for Hillside.
Right.
And New Thought was more, you know, that God does live within you like that.
Right, right.
But we never overcame that barrier where we could touch on you're worthy and complete within yourself, and do like an introductory class or something, you know, to break that chain or that glue that's cemented that old time thinking, that old time religion, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because most of us, I mean, unless they were born like well after we left, we still had that old time thinking. And so even if you are resisting it, you're still in resistance. So it's still persisting.
Exactly.
So it's almost like there needs to be like rituals to it's embodied somatic things to actually get that stuff out of your body. And it needs to be ongoing.
Yeah. And that's where I think that culty comes in.
Ah,
Yeah, because as long as we're participating in a place of not fully being aware of how these dynamics work and
yeah,
how this religion was given to us, and that there was a separate spiritual practice that we honored in the motherland, and it
that
has
part,
nothing to do, it looks nothing like what we're going through here.
that part,
Yeah, yeah.
that
And
part.
so it has to be cults, and that's why you got all these different denominations, you know, like you just think of something new and you got a different denomination, you think of something and here come a new one, you know. So yeah,
But
yeah,
it's not addressing the deep trauma of being separated from who and what we are at our core.
indeed.
I got it.
Yeah.
Want to hear about what you're doing now. Like since since that time, like what are you doing now that you want to share?
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. So I'm learned in a very wide variety of subjects and modalities, and I take my skill set out into the community and help people to understand their value Sandy's way. You know, like the gangster way, right? And so with that, I still am doing a radio program. I'm into my 9th year. I write daily inspirationals that are really just recirculating on the web around the world. I experiment with various modalities that I'm introduced to as far as health and wellness go. I then share that with the world. I'm a part of a group out of India with urine therapy. I have been
What kind
doing
of therapy?
urine therapy.
Urine?
Urine, like in pee. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it said on the thing. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm like, hey, what?
I tell you, see, look, we've been taught, just like this religion thing,
Yeah.
it's a waste, but our urine contains our unique signature in the
Sure.
urine. So we're
Absolutely.
just feeding it back in. It
Absolutely.
contains stem cells. You can apply it on the skin, on your hair, just, you know, everywhere. And it I don't know, everything, rekindle, recycle, re-energize, restores, all of whatever it is that you stand in need of, because it's our signature.
Okay.
So, you know, that deletes the need for chemicals and things like that.
Wow. Okay.
And so yeah, I want to try it, you know, let me know if it really works. And then, you know, so I documented it on my YouTube channel. So I've actually done, my longest was a 45-day urine fast, urine and water. And what I came to find out was at the close to the end of this time frame, I felt more connected to every living thing than in any religion I'd ever gone through, experienced, or been a part of. There was no traffic that bothered me or upset me. I had no road rage. I wanted to embrace everything, the trees to the animals to every person.
Wow.
I feel it's the most valuable path to spirituality.
Connecting to the self.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. Yes. The most powerful.
Wow.
And so now what I'm doing is I've just recently been offered and I accepted an opportunity to do my own TV program called The Sandy Rogers Show. And it's such a fast moving opportunity that I'm putting together the guests, the team, the production staff, and all of like that. So I'm really, really excited. We're going to do our shooting on the 27th of August. The offer was extended to me the first part of August. So like it's moving so
Very
fast.
soon. Oh my God.
I'm excited.
You should
I'm
be.
excited. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Congrats.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. And so how because I'm going to tell you right now, because you have these things happening right now, what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to release this as a podcast on my
Okay.
podcast channel. No
Okay.
visuals, just the podcast. That way people will be able to like tap in because, books take forever. So by next year, who knows what you'll be doing? By next
Right.
year,
Right.
I don't even know. Like the Sandy show, like, I don't even know.
I
So,
don't either.
so I'm going to release this as a podcast so that people can get it right away. So how can people get in touch with you?
Ooh, you can find me on social media, Instagram at Rev Sandy Rogers, Facebook Sandy Rogers 37, I believe, and Linktree.
Yes.
So it's Linktree Sandy Rogers.
Okay.
On Amazon, I have and I can send you the links for these different ones too.
Perfect.
I have an author's page on Amazon. I have 20 plus titles on there. And some of the ebooks are really, you'll love them. You'll love everything, but let's see what else. Email Sandy at authenticascension.com. And the website is the same, authenticascension.com. And so on the website, you'll find the various social media links there, and you'll find the books. You'll find more about what I'm doing with the energy practice.
Okay.
Because I believe you are a Reiki master too, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So that those practices are listed on the website as well. So that's probably the best way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. 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 And are there any words that you want to leave folks with after this wonderful conversation?
Yes. Connect with you.
Hmm.
Connect and know beyond a doubt the real, authentic you. Have quiet moments where you can be in that stillness, allowing yourself to not be inundated with all of these thoughts from social media and TV and other people. Get to know you. That's where your power is. And once you get to know your true self, then you're not dependent upon other people to yay or nay you, to pat you on the back. And that's where your appreciation comes from. When you get to know the real you, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like you walk around with a whole different consciousness about your self-worth, your self-value, and you have this tremendous amount of self-love.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank
Yes.
you, Rev Sandy.
It is my honor.
This was so good. All right, y'all. You heard it. Go to the website, go to Amazon, buy the books, buy all the things, watch the TV show, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.